God is still great in the LDBC. Is still trash content. Calyx Boxing here. Sit down, have a beer, have a drink, have some lunch. Let's talk Josh Taylor against Jack Catterall. What an awful, awful performance by Josh Taylor. I mean, just atrocious. And one of the most baffling, horrible performances I've seen from a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter against average, inferior opposition in quite some time. And we talked about in the prediction video, and none of us could have predicted Josh Taylor looking that bad. But we talked about how these young, unknown, undefeated fighters can be dangerous against top opposition. And we saw that again this past weekend with multiple upsets. Chris Colbert was a victim of an upset as well. And we saw it with Kambosos defeating Teofimo Lopez. But, I mean, what was baffling about this performance was Josh Taylor's inability to make simple adjustments that would have made this fight a lot easier for him. A lot easier. This is a fight Josh Taylor should have won going away on the cards. And it would have been rough. I mean, it would have been ugly either way because of the style that Catterall brought into this fight. And Catterall isn't always this cagey. So you got to give Catterall credit for obviously doing his homework on Josh Taylor. What he saw with Josh Taylor coming in is Josh Taylor's an ambush fighter, likes to jump in, let his hands go and rough guys up on the inside. Not really interested in fighting at range. Doesn't throw the jab. Doesn't work behind the jab coming in. And just jumps in on a straight line. And he's so great at it, he's gotten away with it against great opposition. Regis Prograis, Ramirez. The difference was Regis Prograis or Ramirez kept their hands free on the inside, and Josh Taylor just beat them on the inside game. Catterall saw that and said, you know what, I'm not going to let this guy fight on the inside at all. I'm going to let the referee warn me 1,000 times. I'm going to make him take a point away from me, and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to just rough this guy up on the inside. I'm going to go Andre Ward style and not let this guy fight on the inside. I'm going to fight like Vladimir Klitschko, Andre Ward. There's not going to be any inside fighting here. I'm going to wrap this guy up every time he comes on the inside and make him beat me at range. And he did that successfully. I had a 114, 111 Catterall on my card. I struggle to see how anybody could find 7 rounds to give Taylor here. I saw some people that gave 7 rounds to Taylor, had him edging it out. 8 rounds is big time stretch. I just thought this, I'm usually not the robbery guy. I'm usually, it's debatable or, a bit controversial, but this felt like a robbery to me. This feels like Josh Catterall, as crazy as it is to say, should be the 140-pound undisputed champion of the world right now, which is crazy to think. Because after watching this, I don't, this isn't like Kambosos beating Teofimo, where I was like, Kambosos is a very good fighter, and Kambosos is a guy I want to continue to watch. Catterall, after watching this fight, I'm not really that interested in watching Catterall fight again. I wasn't all that impressed with Catterall. This, to me, just felt like Josh Taylor looking amateurish and stinking up the joint, which is crazy. Because Josh Taylor, to me, going into this fight was a top 6 or 7 pound-for-pound guy for what he's proven so far in the ring throughout his career. But this is possibly changes in your camp that didn't go well. This is inactivity, only fighting once in 2020, once in 2021. It's a lot of those things, which is why you want to see these fighters stay active. As they're not active, as they're more inactive, they're more prone to be upset. As you're seeing in boxing, you're seeing upset after upset after upset of top fighters. And it's just because these guys aren't sharpening their steel. They aren't staying sharp with their skill. For Josh Taylor, what was baffling about this fight was all he had to do was throw the jab and get off that line. Stop jumping in without using the jab. Stop jumping in on a straight line. Use some lateral movement. Fight off your back foot, for God's sakes. There were many adjustments that he could have made, but 2 simple adjustments was use the jab and then use some lateral movement to get off of that straight line that he kept jumping in on. And he kept getting hit with the same shots over and over for 12 rounds. Look, I understand CompuBox, not the most accurate, but it's inaccurate for both fighters, so it tells a story at the same time. All right, so when you see Josh Taylor being out-jabbed 2-1, over 2-1 by the shorter guy and the less athletic guy, and when you're seeing being out-jabbed as far as jabs landing almost 3-1, that's a huge red flag. Huge red flag. I don't think we can just sweep this under the rug, man. Like, I'm usually not the guy that says, you know, I'm usually the guy that says we can't read too much off of one performance. But there were red flags everywhere, which is shocking to me. Every time he would go to the corner, Ben Davidson, you know, he wouldn't give him any technical advice. I didn't see Ben Davidson once tell Josh Taylor to use the jab. How is that possible? How is it that all of us saw that except Ben Davidson? Use the jab, man. How do you score rounds for a guy averaging 25 punches thrown per round and only landing about 6 per round? The fight wasn't being fought on his terms. He certainly wasn't the effective aggressor. He certainly wasn't the ring general. So where are you finding 7 or 8 rounds to give Josh Taylor in this fight? How? Just a baffling performance. Use the jab. Goodness gracious. It's the most simple thing. It's the first thing you learn in boxing, and you couldn't make that simple adjustment. Crazy.